So it is now 7:02, and we'll call this meeting of the Old Saybrook Board of Education to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome to our guests in the audience, everyone that's here and potentially online as well. We will start with our audience of citizens. Just want to review the rules of audience of citizens again, just as we do before our board meeting, just in case anybody wants to comment that's in the crowd today. Any resident, individual or group can come and address the board regarding any subject that lies within a jurisdiction. The highlight is that they have to identify themselves by name and address when you're coming and approaching the board. The board may or may not respond to your comment. It may actually take that back and respond in a different mechanism. It depends on what the topic is and if there's something that the superintendent wants to address at that time. 3 minutes are allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 30 for any given topic together. I am going to appoint Karen, as I usually do, as timekeeper to inflect that to make sure that everybody gets equitable time. No boisterous conduct shall be permitted in any board meeting. And then speakers are asked to refrain from presentations that discuss specific employees of the Board of Education, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified in the presentation by name or by another reference. So if there's any questions, you can let us know at any point, but welcome to our audience today. We're happy to be here. So at this point, is there anyone that would like to address the board today? Okay. Anyone online? Okay. All right, then we will move on to our reports from the student reps.
All right. So first for academics, we have the PSATs and SATs coming up on October 15th. And if you would like to take the fall SATs, it's $60. And for sports.
So next up we have sports, and we have a few important dates coming up, over the next 2 weeks. I think the main one is the Mr. Bourne field naming ceremony, Monday, the 29th, I think. Yes. So the 29th, and first off, I'd like to say it'd be great if you guys could come down, be there to support a great man. Cross country has a meet on the 18th, and then both boys and girls soccer have a winning record, with girls 3-0-1 and boys are 4-2. And there's also 2 girls on the swim team, so I think that's more than last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a field hockey game on the 18th, and a football and cheer had a game on the 15th as well.
And for clubs, the first that's the superintendent principal meeting was September 18th. The student government decided on the homecoming theme for this year, and that's Night in Paris. The Spanish club meeting was posted on Tuesday, actually just today. And it focuses on the community service, improving Spanish skills, and immersing in culture. The DECA Club is working towards fundraising for the Breast Cancer Awareness Fund. And for Ecology Club, we had our first coastal cleanup at Town and Harvey's Beach. They collected over 200 cigarette butts and collected a lot of litter. And for math team, they had a competition September 18th, and the Crisis Text Line Club, I believe they went to the Baldwin Bridge last Friday the 19th to be there for the bridge project. And so that was very cool, and they had a chance to talk with the news and on like live broadcasting. And the IPCIA Club, it talks about domestic violence prevention and action, and they're trying to fundraise and educate people on that matter. And for Model UN, the Model United Nations, they're representing Argentina this year, and for the Drama Club, they're starting to rehearse Little Women for the play.
So next up we have student opinions, and all 3 of these are going to be focused around we talked about last time. We've had more time to sort of adjust to this new system, and with that, more kids have been able to give their opinions about it. So the first one is, with this new flex system, you're not able to use your phone to, sign in and choose where you want to be. So that is a little bit of an inconvenience, but other than that, it's working pretty well. Another thing is though that previously flex used to be before lunch, so that gave students the, if they needed to go take their driver's test or they needed to go schedule a doctor's appointment, that sort of hour in the day kind of was like a block where, they could guarantee that they wouldn't miss any classes or anything like that. But now that it's moved earlier, it's hard for students to miss class periods for sort of important appointments. And then finally, this is another issue regarding the new moving it forward, is that previously students, they enjoyed actually the hour-long break in the middle of the day, going from flex to lunch, because they felt it gave them time to recharge and sort of fuel them for the second half of the day.
All right, and for school updates, so last week we had grade level advisory meetings, and we talked about the norms and expectations for the year. And this Thursday, we have an open house from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. And that's just, it's actually different from last year. We have a lot of we're starting to have student involvement, so there's going to be a student panel. So kids, like leaders from different clubs, can come in and show why their clubs are so important. And that will be held in the cafeteria. And then we're just the open house is kind of explained to the parents our different schedule and the setup for this year. That's, I think, good.
Thanks so much, Jack.
Thank you, so Nico, appreciate it. Chris, follow up with you. Super. Are there minutes and can we ever have access to those minutes, or do we? And do you think it's appropriate that we do?
No, because I don't keep them.
Okay.
Our students keep the minutes. And they report back on, or,
I mean, sorry,
okay,
but all of the things that we have here is kind of based on Suprin, so it kind of like, it's kind of the same minutes as them.
Thank you. I should have asked so.
I-
Second question, I forget if I asked this last time. Can you explain the reason for the flex change? Or the reasons?
one of the main drivers was that, as is so articulately put, that flex used to be right before lunch. So that was an extended period of time to that 30 minutes, and then obviously the lunch period that students had an opportunity to maybe not be as productive during that time. So the thought this year was to move it, so that you essentially have, so nobody can go get stopping. I think it's 2 periods flex, another period lunch, and then 2 periods at the end of the day, you get it? To break up the data. And it was with mixed reviews. There were some that enjoyed it, there were some that don't. But it was a change last year that was discussed a little bit with the superintendent. Okay. Anything else? You'll see how it's going.
Question about the cigarette butts. Is there any thought, because obviously smoking is not allowed at any of the park and rec facilities in town, is any of that feedback gonna go to park and rec? Do you know, so that they can maybe problem solve and strategize how to either monitor or?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great idea, because maybe I should let the ecology club know, but I'm pretty sure they just kind of collect it. But last year I know that it was a part of an organization. It was you had this sheet of paper and collected data on how many different pieces of litter and types of litter you had. But actually, that's probably a great idea to mention to the ecology club.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah.
And then just a note on your notes that you submit to the board. I think Mary Beth is gonna work with you. We didn't have access to the document,
Yeah.
so not a big deal, but
The problem with that is I can't let anyone with I can't give you access if your email is gmail.com. It has to be Old Saybrook Schools.
oh, you know what, it could be, that's why, yeah, because I do have the org, but it might be that account is trying to access it.
And I
Thank you.
could use Gmail account for next time. I don't know if
No,
Yeah.
You keep
We all,
doing what
we
you're
all have.
doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think you may have solved my problem.
And I think that is it, because that's, yeah. Okay, Jim.
Yeah, just to clarify Karina's comments, there is no smoking allowed on town beaches, but there is smoking allowed in the parking lot. So where the
Okay.
butts were collected may have some impact on what you report to Park and Rec, but we'd certainly be, I'm sorry, Park and Rec would certainly be interested in finding out that information too, just to know if they have to crack down on people smoking on the beaches more.
Question, I'm just interested in Model UN representing Argentina, what is that?
Don't explain.
So basically, it's a club where once a year they have a big get together, and basically every different school, Connecticut, or the schools that do participate, they represent a different country. For example, last year we were in UAE, and this year we were assigned Argentina. So in that country, say there's 30 kids in the club. They split up into groups of 4, and there's different subcategories you can focus on. One is like finance and tariffs, the others will be like agriculture, the other one's like tourism. So just different subcultures, like different categories. And Argentina, it was assigned to us.
For all teams?
Yep.
You have to present it somewhere.
Well, we do have like the big get together in November, I believe. We go up to the University of Harvard and we spent 2 days there, you know?
Thanks.
Yep.
One quick follow-up regarding that, Nico, thank you, that was excellent. Last year, if I remember, Talia Bauer, kind of the summer prior, it kind of brought this along, and there was conversation about going to the United Nations in New York City. And the discussion was no, for last year, it was too soon, there's a new organization, is that possible this year?
If it is, I haven't heard anything from Mrs. Turner.
Okay, Chris, do you know anything?
I have not heard that yet.
Okay. I know it was a possibility, actually visited.
Say, I know that Model UN groups have gone in the past, and I don't know if the rules have changed now.
Great.
Thank you once again. Okay, Karen, any first comment?
There was no correspondence this evening.
So much, right, then the next item is, we need a motion on our regular meeting minutes for September 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by just seconded by Karen, any discussion? Oh, sorry, it was Steve, sorry.
How do I delegate this? We violated our policies in our last meeting, which made some of our votes illegal. I think we need to address the issue that needs to be rectified so that one, the motion that was just made can be made. And that we can clean up some housekeeping. We have a policy on filling vacancies that we didn't follow. So I think before we can make this motion on the meeting minutes, we need to address that vacancy issue. And then we can hold a vote on whether or not anybody has any concerns with the votes taken in the last meeting. And then we can address the meeting minutes and make a motion on that. And the violation of the policy is that while Mr. Maselli was named, the board has to have the vote to accept him into our board. But we didn't do that. So I don't think it's gonna change anything, but I think I wrote just a little while ago, I wrote this email, so I apologize for the last minute. If we don't follow our policies, how do we hold anybody else to follow? So I think it's just a quick cleanup and just move on with it.
Right,
So we have to withdraw the motion for the minutes because Mr. Maselli was part of that.
sure.
He doesn't have rights yet. And then we'd have to make a motion to accept him. Yeah, first you, because it's not on the agenda.
Well, so we'd have to make a motion to modify the agenda.
Let me start by withdrawing my motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to modify the agenda and add in that we vote on Mr. Maselli. That's the concern.
That's a big procedure.
So that's the motion on the floor. Seconded by Eileen, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
like to make a motion to accept Mr. Maselli on the board.
Motion on the floor. Need a second? Second. Second by Karen, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Welcome officially.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Steve, for doing that. Okay, now we will probably need a motion to amend the minutes potentially. Is it the same? Do we need to amend the minutes because of the?
I don't think you need to amend the minutes.
Because it'll be captured here.
On this
Captured
one?
here. I do think we just have to, if anybody has any concerns with the votes from the last meeting.
Because it was in
He
the board.
voted.
Right,
Well,
voted.
it wasn't.
And he was
It
officially.
wasn't officially. Shane, I apologize. It's
Yeah.
done differently everywhere and this.
And we've done it differently, we haven't followed our own policy.
That's usually a
Right, right, so I apologize, but reading through
That's fair.
policy or policy, so. If everybody feels that's right, I would make a motion that, all votes taken at the last meeting still stand, and there is no, contention to the outcomes of votes.
Any discussion on
As- Right, as long as there's no issue with,
Right.
is his participation in the board being? I don't know, I think it's a
I
compromise.
don't think would be any change to any of the outcomes, that's what I mean, so the outcomes,
If
whether or not
ran
you
the vote
voted.
Tonight versus.
Right, I mean, we could, if there's any
Yeah.
concern on any issue, we can bring that back and vote on it now. So this is the opportunity, if somebody has a concern with any vote, they can vote against this, right, and then we can address those issues. If nobody has a concern with the votes, then all votes will stand.
When I joined the board, I was filling George Chang's vacancy, and I don't think.
We didn't do it.
Done that?
Voted in.
No,
That doesn't mean it's right.
right, it wasn't done when Alan was brought back, it wasn't done when Jane was brought on, it's just been a.
initially, but then they've all been voted in for elections.
Yeah, so Yeah, so elections are not.
Right.
It's
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 a
happening
Good
right.
point. Good point. It's just a point.
Yeah, so even though you're sworn in before you can attend the meeting, you are sworn in.
Right.
I assume you got sworn in?
I did, yeah.
But I can share the policy if anybody would like to read it. It's in our policy. It's on our website.
It's fair, the point is fair, Steve, I think it's just, we're doing a little cleanup, so what I'm hearing, the motion that we have on the floor right now that we're discussing. So we basically, now that we've adopted and followed our policy, that we're not going back and undoing any of the votes that we did. Eileen second.
Okay, I'm sorry, Chris.
So that we're discussing now, are we ready to call it? Yes, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, thank you, motion carries, thank you for cleaning it up, we are in good standing, we'll follow that. We haven't done it, but if it is for the policy, it's a good point, call out, and then we can just take a look at the policy, whether we want to move it forward to that later. Okay, there we go, we got there, all right. So thank you, tech team, for holding, hanging on, with us through that process. So next we have the DECA overnight field trip.
We have to approve the minutes first.
Oh, sorry,
No.
too many, all
We
right,
have to make a motion on it first.
all right, because we did already, but then we
Because we
went,
threw
well,
it. You
and then
threw the
we.
motion. And we
Yes,
went through all
and then we
three.
went through 3 minutes. Okay,
Now we just
Fair.
need a motion to accept.
motion approved the accept
So moved.
amended motion. Thank you.
Second.
You want to sell?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the? Okay, if not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. All right, now we will really move on to the DECA overnight trip.
Ms. Daly, welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Daly brought a very special guest this evening. They asked your permission and I'm gonna turn it over to
Yeah.
you and then I think you're gonna turn it over to the people we all want to hear.
Right, so, we are members of the DECA Business Hub at the high school. And we are requesting, 2 overnight field trips be approved for this school year. And then we would like students to share a little bit about what DECA is, what it means to them, what we've done so far, where we hope it goes, and then we can talk a little bit more about the specifics of the field trips. Okay?
Everyone, just do some quick introductions. My name is Ellen. I'm a senior at the high school here and I'm the vice president of DECA.
Hi, I'm Asamina Sagunjan. I'm also a senior at the Old Saybrook High School and I'm the president of DECA.
I'm Chase Cambodi. I'm a junior at Old Saybrook High School and I'm competitively there.
And the document.
Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna talk about is what DECA means to me and something that will probably a lot of students could agree with, specifically on the competitive aspect. So DECA really is an opportunity for kids to prove themselves. A lot of times, things in business, sure, we have a bunch of Miss Daly's great classes, but it's hard to actually apply into kind of a more adult sense, if that makes sense. So that's what DECA offers. These competitions allow you to kind of get in the mindset of, you know, an adult farther down your career and apply the skills you learn in these classes. Just like this field trip that we're gonna be talking about to Atlanta for the national competition, it's really a chance to network with like-minded people, all focused on maybe a business career. And apply your skills, improve yourself. So that's what DECA is.
So this is just a quick preview of what DECA has done in the past few years. DECA at Old Saybrook High School has been a chapter for 3 years now. And in those 3 years, we've done quite a lot. This is last year, the top left, that is the OSA DECA Pink Out, which all proceeds go to the Terry Broder Foundation for breast cancer. Below that is a most recent picture of our DECA club. This year, we have about 60 members. At our last meeting, actually today during Flex at high school, we had 52 members currently at the meeting. So a very high participation rate this year, thankfully. And then over here, we have like little posters. This was to advertise the Pink Out, just because DECA, a big part of it is not only business, but also fundraising. There's different aspects of it to explore, especially for fundraising, giving back to charity, which helps us achieve the thing called Thrive, which helps us get to the international competition. James will be talking about shortly. Like Ellen said before, we have like a lot of participation. We actually happen to be the biggest club in our school at the moment, with 52 members just showing up to our club today, and that is not even counting like everybody who's a part of it who couldn't show up. It is a very large group of people, and thankfully we have like a good amount who are actively participating and being part of what we're trying to do. It's kind of a club that can fit everyone, you know, like it really doesn't matter because business is everywhere. So you can really be going into any kind of profession in the future, whatever career you're looking for, there's always a way to place it. Me and Ellen, when we went to the leadership conference and everything like that, we kind of focused on entrepreneurship. And like it was really helpful for us to kind of connect that to our career paths in the future, even though we might not be going into like specifically like business or anything. I think you're doing marketing or something like that. It was always really helpful to connect. So these were some like the pictures. We did like the SCBC competition, which actually Chase and another one of our members, Michael, actually got placed in the top 3 of their categories. So they won ICBC competition seats, which we weren't able to go to last year, but we're hoping this year we will be able to, as well as the fact that we got Thrive, what Ellen was talking about before, we got it last year. And so that was another 2 seats in addition that our school won through things like fundraising and other activities that we did, you know, getting business involvement and kind of just reaching out to the community. It's very much something that you can do networking, like throughout Old Saybrook with different like businesses and things like that that can sponsor the group.
Just to add on to something she was saying earlier about how business is everything, and that's true, but even a lot of these competitions are not something you think about as strictly business. Like there are creative aspects to it. There are so many different competitions. So, for an example, one me and another member, Michael Page, won or placed in was like a role play. Yeah, the mindset of
this is kind of your. A business you took over and you have to come up with a plan on the spot, present it to a investor. But there's so much variety, so we had other groups who, not in our school at least, but from other chapters. Who would bring in sweatshirts they design as physical products. Or a presentation just about ideas for invention, stuff like that, so really. There's so much variety, that's really.
And there was like food management and like hospitality, so people who are going into the business or even currently working in like restaurants or things like that, learn how to like manage. And do like customer service and just like basic things that I think that everybody should know. We're learning networking skills and overall things that can help you in your future. Regardless of your career path. This is another like a bunch of pictures from another field trip we did, which was to New York.
Yeah, so this was actually a very special trip for us because we got to go on the floor of the New York City stock market, which is no longer open to the public, which we got into thanks to some connections at the high school and some very helpful people, which we have previously worked with before. So it was a very nice experience. We got to go through not only the stock market, but also the 9/11 museum, which was a very eye-opening experience. It was just recently opened and most of us, if not all of the students on the trip, had not experienced that before. Okay.
Okay, so, first off, the ultimate power trip is Thrive, right?
Nope.
It's for-
The ultimate power, so Thrive has to do with ICDC, the national competition. These are the two trips that we're proposing. One is coming up very fast in November. The deadline to register is October 15th. And spots fill up fast, so we're hoping to move on this pretty quickly. And actually Chase and Michael brought this to my attention last school year, and really wanted to go on this trip. So that is the one that we'll talk about first, but we'll also talk about the details of ICDC. And I believe you were sent some details, about both trips prior to this meeting. So the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the ultimate power trip, which is really just a leadership experience. It doesn't have to do with specifically competition, but it does have a lot to offer students. So did you want to speak a little about that?
Yeah, so really, if you don't plan on competing yet in the competitions for, I don't know, for some reason or another, you don't wanna do it, basically. A lot of these sessions are good just to kind of get exposed to it and exposed to people who are involved in this sort of stuff, because really everything in business is about who you know. And you're gonna meet a lot of people who, you know, maybe have been through their competitions, have done well, and maybe, oh, that's something I wanna do, that sounds cool, and you'll learn from other people and the presenters while you're there.
So you can tell that Chase is all about competition. And that is absolutely something that they will do, and they can go to workshops about how to be your best when you're competing. But they also have a lot of workshops on career readiness, getting into college, and then also building your chapter locally.
Well, I think another interesting thing about it is I'm gonna connect it to like a field trip that we do currently. Which is, we do the DECA Leadership Conference, and this fall we're going actually. And it's such like a great experience. I've recommended it to like anybody who's ever asked me about it. I think it was really fun, and they just kind of teach you like basic skills of leadership, like presenting skills and things like that. They have like very engaging presenters there. And it's very similar, just it's much more like hands-on, I think. The fall leadership conference is more like listening to lectures and kind of like writing notes and things like that, even though like I'm not even gonna lie, it was really interesting. A lot of these people had like really cool input and like experience. There was this one lady who was talking about like how she got into the marketing world. And she like showed us all these designs that she marketed for really big corporations and things like that. And I think that it's such an interesting experience, as well as the fact that you can go up to them after and like you can shake their hand and like get to know them. And you know, it's kind of just
making yourself acquainted with this side of the business world. And I think that this event would be really cool for so many of our students.
Okay, so ICBC is the international record competition. I don't
Career development.
career development. But it's essentially, so there's SCDC, which is kind of that first step into getting into the competitive side of DECA, where it's your chapter, you go, you have a person or a group for like one for all the different competitions. And it's like you might compete while you're there and the stuff, you might come in with a written piece or something like that, and they will give out the awards essentially. And the top 3 from each event will qualify for ICBC, which is the international version. So it's on a bigger scale with more competitors and greater kind of reward, I guess, from both a physical standpoint with the DECA Glass Award and also a learning standpoint.
Well, there's the question slide with ICDC, there's only 2 ways students can go, and you really need an invitation. You have to place in the top 3, or you have to earn Thrive as your chapter. So last year we earned Thrive, and we have a couple of students place in the top 3. We don't know if we're going to achieve those things this year, but we are hoping to. And as you can see, we've got some pretty motivated students who are really looking forward to it. And so that's why we thought we would just present both of these trips to you in one. But is there anything else that you all wanted to add before we open it up for questions? All right.
So questions from the
I do. Sounds like a very exciting club, so I just have just a few questions to help me understand it. What does DECA stand for? What's D? What's it?
Okay. So basically DECA used to stand for something in specific, but now it's really just like the international symbol, like the business club. It's overall, it's just a business club. You know, we go into things like entrepreneurship, hospitality, and like all of those things like that were on the first slide. It kind of goes through all of those different categories, except it doesn't necessarily stand for something anymore. It used to.
Distributed education.
It made most
It's
sense.
also
American.
I'm 80, so
Right.
basically have a laser just like yours. No, my fault. Okay.
And in Old Saybrook, when you meet, do the speakers come in?
What?
When you meet in Old Saybrook,
Right.
do you have speakers come in? We do talk about,
So last year, I don't think we had a speaker come in, but we did our first year. It was one of our students' fathers who is an entrepreneur himself, and it was a great experience to have him come in. And that's definitely something that we would want to do more of.
my last question is, there's money associated with participating. And so if the student, there's somebody that's interested, is there funding available?
Yes, so DECA is known for its expensive membership. And we are really lucky to have such a supportive board and district that we have approved some funding for students to be members and to go on the leadership conference that's coming up October 31st. And then even paying for the buses to get those kids there.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Thanks for sharing. How many students are you talking about going to each? So I'll ask a series of questions and you can answer them. How many students are you talking about sending to each of these conferences? Are the same students going to go to both if you do earn seats in ICBC? And is 100% of the funding coming from the district for these students, or what does that breakdown look like?
Okay, so for the Ultimate Power trip coming up in November, Chase and Michael brought this to my attention last school year, so they are hoping to go. When I surveyed students, we had 12 students that were interested in the Ultimate Power trip. I would anticipate 4 to 6 students. And then with ICDC, it really just depends on if we earn Thrive and if they place in the top 3 of their competitive event. And the cost of these two trips was not included in our budget, so the cost burden would be on the students. And for our ultimate power trip in November, we're getting tight on fundraising time. But we would definitely plan some fundraising for the ICTC.
Thank you.
So following up on that a little bit, so there is the cost, 1,000 for the first trip and 1,300 for the second. You did mention that there was some money coming from the district to offset some of the costs.
So the money that's coming from the district is to offset the membership fees, which are annual. It's $20 for students to be members, and the district is covering half of that. And students will cover the rest. And at every meeting, and you know, in the beginning of this, students absolutely have the opportunity to just be local members and non-paid members. But then they also have the opportunity, if they want to go to a DECA field trip, they do have to be paid members. And so I always tell them, if there's ever an issue, come and talk to me separately. So there is that aspect.
So I made the mistake of not acknowledging you three first. You did a fantastic job and that you accomplished your objective, and I hope that everything moves forward positively. Chris, question for you. We kind of had this discussion last year a little bit when it was the Washington DC trip. Some of these trips are cost prohibitive to students. Is there a way, too late for this year, for next year? There are different trips. One is potentially Washington, a little more curricular oriented. The other is a after school club, is that correct?
Yeah.
But is there a way to put some money into the budget to offset the cost for all students on trips like this? Not pay for all of them, but offset some of the costs, because the reality is, and I know there's fundraising and there's other opportunities, that doesn't always work out where students that want to go do go or attend. Is there any way that it can ever be put into the budget?
There's always a way, put into the budget. I think it furthers a deeper conversation in this room about, because we are in a position that we do offer a lot of extracurricular or co-curricular trips. So the thing we just have to guard against is, are we favoring one over? And we had that conversation with the secret. Obviously, I'm a bit biased. They'll have my blazer. But you have to look at it sort of holistically of the amount of clubs that we have, and not every opportunity is annual for some of these organizations as well. So we just have to make sure that we're doing it equitably, but the short answer is, yeah, you can put as much money in there as we want and send them everywhere they want to go.
I mean, the idea would be, yes, there'd have to be something arranged ahead of time, and groups would have to apply if there have to be a process, so that it is fair and equitable.
For instance, the reason you're getting both of these is that, not out anyone, but with the national competition, you have to qualify for that. So we obviously had a student, I won't embarrass anybody, who qualified, couldn't go because we didn't have a board meeting in time to approve the overnight trip. So somebody missed out on an opportunity last year because our policy says you have to come in front of us and we didn't have a meeting scheduled. Hence why we said bring them all now, because if anyone does qualify, we don't want to prohibit someone from coming. We didn't get as far as the discussion on, you know, the total funding mechanism for that, but the sooner we're approved, the more our staff and our students have an opportunity to fundraise for these trips as well. We always try to make sure that we support them in any way we can when it comes to fundraising, but yeah, we can certainly have. It's a pretty robust conversation. We're talking about all of these extra opportunities that we have.
I think we're getting a little bit off topic from the specific agenda item. If that's the case, we can bring that to budget and fiscal committee to bring forward as much a recommendation or vote to put it on the agenda for a regular conversation. Yeah.
So first of all, nice job. Nice to see some familiar faces over there. Cause I'm a new guy. For trips like this, the price tag, does that include trip insurance? Is that part of what we traditionally do in Safeway?
Typically there is.
Okay,
I don't know specific, I don't put it in spot.
no,
I'm not 100%.
that's why I asked this way.
This would be my first overnight trip. So I would have to collaborate with other teachers who have done overnight trips before. I don't know if there's if there's insurance, travel insurance for this. But that's definitely something that I would look into, because I know that there is often travel insurance.
Typically, we go through like an agency for an overnight trip, and that would be.
And then it gets bundled, yeah. Thank you.
So if we're gonna be approving that that we would allow as a board, you know, students to go to these based on who qualifies and like that. There, a teacher's gonna have to go as well, correct? One teacher each.
I think we're gonna try and get 2 teachers, just in case any kind of emergency happens, there's always an available teacher with the students.
And, you know, that's not something that the teacher is gonna pay for out, obviously, so. That's gonna go as well.
We factor that into the process for Chaplain, so we're asking.
Is that part of the 1,000 and 1,300?
No.
No, that would.
Well, first of all, well done on a number of different things, the presentation, obviously, tonight, those skills that you're learning or you're demonstrating in real practice. I think it's the best name of a field trip that I've ever seen, personally, and also kudos to all of you for growing the club this large in such a short period of time. That's incredible that you have that amount of participation and interest, so really, really well done, on all of that. Eileen,
Just kind of just, I usually ask the question, just so we reiterate that we want most students to be able to attend, so if there's a way, then that's something that we need, it's your committee. You have an educational foundation, but I think that that's really important because we want to have hope and we want to be, we don't want to shut down so people can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think for most of the field trip presentations that we have, we do have kind of sense and try to make sure that if there's a student that has a financial hardship, then there's a service for us to be able to address them. Okay, so hearing no other questions, then we'll just need a motion on the
Make a
floor.
motion to approve the 2 field trips.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Good job.
you very much. All right, next on our agenda is strategic plan.
So at our last meeting, I told you that obviously we're in that phase of starting to talk about we're in year 5 of our current, thank you guys. Current strategic plan, and we have an opportunity to start planning on what we think the next 5 years and beyond of the district should look like. We have started that work. We talked about that a little bit over the last year. As board members are aware, I did send it to you that we sent out surveys to parents, students, most importantly, and staff, with regards to the opportunities that we offer our kids. We often have the conversation that we're a small district and sometimes we're limited in what we can offer. And a lot of us don't necessarily subscribe to that. It's more of, we are a small district. We can do some pretty creative things with that. The reality is we can't really do anything until we know what they want. And I'm not pointing at you, Mr. Selly, I'm pointing at Mr. Grant. Because we can offer the greatest things in the world, but if they're not interested in it, it's not working. So we're starting that process. What you have in your packets this week is a template and it is marked draft. We tried to put in a lot of this, kudos go to Jeff and to Trent. For putting this information together, but we promised that we would give you the foundation for starting a plan. I know you've typically done it a little bit differently in the past, consultants and the like. But this was our first crack at it, doing it in-house. This is just for your consumption. You have 2 weeks to digest it. And at our next meeting, Jeff and Trent will be here to talk more about that, but we need to start having that conversation of what's important to you. Started last meeting about just what we believed as a district and together for a bright future. However, now it's time for us to start really putting forth what those pillars are, up and forwards that we're going to build on and what the future of the district is going to be. So a lot of that is kind of concurrent with information we're seeking from almost everyone in the community. As I said in the document that I sent to you guys last week, we're currently, just so there's a clarification, we're only surveying students and parents in grades 4 to 12 at the moment. There's not a lot of wiggle room beyond, grade pre-K to 3. But our 4th graders are moving up next year, and we're also doing it separately for 4th graders, 5th and 6th if fifth, sixth and seventh graders, a separate one for eighth graders, because they're now getting that opportunity to jump. Our ninth through 11th graders have a different tab, and then we have a separate tab just for our seniors, so that we can get that different perspective from everything. It's all connected, it's all part of the grand scheme of what we want this place to look like for the next 5 years. So that is just for your comment. We're not married to anything in there. And we could certainly have a more robust conversation about that starting next, at our next.
Super question. I know that we've had the strategic plan committee.
Yep.
So is there, how will that, how will the work that they're doing then integrate with that, or will that be done differently as well?
I think, because ultimately you own that document that's in front. So we wanted to present to you every option we could think of level of importance. So this is really just a conversation starter, and I think collectively as a board and a group, we start thinking about how do we want to bring in those stakeholders from that side of that. This was really just to try to prioritize. These are the areas of focus that I've listened to over the last year that have seemed to have the most interest in.
Thanks.
It's yours, it's not mine, so we're here to facilitate.
Kelly, I would say this probably, speculating, if there's a document that's gonna grow and expand as we mature our strategic plan, is this something that, we're gonna discuss in 2 weeks, obviously, are we going to vote on? This is where we put our flag in the ground right now, and then we'll continue to improve, or this is the baseline of where Chris and his team are gonna use to implement their plan.
So, right now, I don't know. A lot depends on, did we cover everything in here that's important, Steve? If the answer to that is yes, you'll see the timeline, and the reason it's draft, because we've already missed some of our deadline. For numerous reasons, but planning that stakeholder. That team, the team convening, and as you can tell, when we started this, we obviously put it out in August, which was for planning on our part. But I think a lot will, what I would ask is, as you get an opportunity to digest this. Start thinking about what it is that you want this process to look like. You have done it traditionally in a certain manner. That doesn't mean you have to again. So I know there have been committees, there are other ways to get stakeholder input if you so choose to do it differently. But I'm going to take your lead on how the board wants to convene this process. I've done it where we've had specific meetings just for that purpose, because this is obviously something that's going to drive the work of the district going forward, from conversations we had earlier about budgeting, the conversations I just talked about as far as curriculum and program planning, and really just identifying what the importance of each of these categories are. So I think I wanted to make sure I've got you the most up-to-date draft as possible. We actually added another section to this recently when it came to AI, because that's so prevalent in our world. To start that conversation and then sort of plan that out, but I'm working with gentlemen. Because they are very good at telling what to do, and then all of a sudden you'll get inundated with meeting dates and documents.
Number 7 says use cave caps and yes rubrics to strengthen the happens to that.
Yep.
Next meeting.
Well, he's got them already. We just wanted to give you the document for.
No, I'm saying that there are things that are going to lead this discussion that from these organizations.
Yep.
Not just necessarily, but.
Right now, this is just like a menu list of what's out there. We have all the supporting documentation that they're gonna bring into it.
For the feedback that you're looking for from parents, you were saying we're gonna have like, 4th grade and top, that's for the students?
That's for students, families, and we did it in staff entirety. That's more for offerings and opportunities. That's not necessarily, that's a component of it.
Okay. But is there an opportunity for all parents to?
In this, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
that's what I was, okay.
Everything will complement each other, but
Yeah.
the initial survey that went out last week was getting feedback on particular things that we
Okay.
offer. That's
Yeah.
curriculum based, programmatic based, could be athletic, extracurricular based.
Right.
And that was targeted to that particular audience. This covers everybody, including would-be parents. Because there might be people who have non-school age kids at the moment, but we're gonna need to hear from them because they're gonna be here today.
They're hard to find.
Yeah,
What kind of responses have you gotten to that?
we are well over 100 since it went out.
Good start.
Yeah, and we haven't. We haven't surveyed students yet. We're gonna be doing the student survey in school. We're gonna give you guys time to take the survey as I promised you last week during the school day. So that does not include student survey.
We'll be talking about that, right? Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, what did you just say? Cause it
We'll be
may,
talking about that next, the survey and the electric process and all of that stuff is on the agenda as well, separate. This
Yeah.
is just strategic plan.
so having completed the survey, and understand it's going to students, are there gonna be additional opportunities for student feedback as the process works through the motions
Yeah,
this school year?
so right now, it's blank canvas. It's really like, what do you guys want? Putting in sentence.
And that's exactly what I thought, actually. I don't understand right next to me, I was asking her this question.
So
It was fantastic.
but let's look at what the interest areas are. And then from there, we can look at what's possible and we'll have to re-ask, because if we're in a position to offer some of these things that are new. The important thing is we need to make sure that people want to participate. So Sarah and I have great ideas for classes, but if no kid's interested in doing it, it's not worth the time and the aggravation to put it together. So right now is to get that general feedback of what kinds of things do you like, and that's why I was very targeted. The things you're excited for when you made that transition from one school to the next. And then what maybe that we didn't offer that you would like to see. I'm gonna gather that, regroup, see what that looks tangibly, and then send it back out. If we were to offer X, Y, and Z, is something that you would be interested in participating in. Well, we haven't gotten all of that, but it's important for us to get that out now.
Thank you, very impressive.
Questions on strategic plan or process?
I just think it's more of a comment. I know that, I'll say Burcon High School has always offered competitive and comprehensive classes, and we never took a look at necessarily enrollment. Because we really believe that a small school needed to be able to offer those kinds of things, because I know in some of the maybe what you had sent out indicated that we might have held back, but we haven't. Because we did financial literacy, we've done a lot of things that we thought would be really valuable for students.
We can get to the
Yeah.
topic next year.
So strategic plan first, any more on the strategic plan questions on the process?
This is incredibly important. This document guides pretty much everything that we do moving forward for the next 5 years. So you're gonna spend time on stuff outside of policy and making sure we're doing policy stuff and budget. Strategic plan is really important. So dig in if you have any questions during the process or anything that you want to review, let Chris know. Sure. Yes.
The only other thing, I think you answered in the very beginning, you said it's a living document, therefore it is dynamic and can be kind of tweaked as time goes, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
But this is a newer process because we've usually had it facilitated by an outside agency, right? So this year we will be doing it internal to the district, kind of using the same methodology. So the ask right now is that you review the process, kind of what's in the framework so far. If there's anything that you think we should be adding, other things to consider, that we're giving that feedback at this point, and we can make sure that we have the right focus areas in the strategic. So that's the ask to be prior to the next meeting in 2 weeks. Okay. Perfect, right? Then we will move on. I know we started eking into the elective conversation a little bit on the next one, but thank you. I know that this was an add-on as we kind of I sent it out with the ethos to add on. So wanted to just open the discussion up. There's been some questions just on the elective process at the middle school and high school, how we determine which electives we have, what opportunity there is for student choice or voice in that process, which I know you're going to speak to in a couple of minutes. And just kind of questions. So we have core that we have to teach English, math, social studies, science, PE has to go on there, but in other places like arts or technology, we have a little bit more of a range of opportunity where we can fulfill the requirement, but it can be in different opportunities or areas for conference. And so the question was just to maybe bring to the board, what's our process within district to understand which ones we want to offer, which ones we don't, how we get student choice and voice and have a collective competition. So I don't know if there's anything you want to speak to on that.
You covered it So specifically at the middle school, there are core requirements that we have to teach. And then we do offer a large variety, particularly in the arts. Right now, we have a very robust music program at both the middle school and high school. But being a small school, sometimes you're handcuffed to schedule all of that, because if you have a student who plays an instrument and is also in the chorus, you know, those can't be offered at the same amount of day, because at the same time of the day. But one of the things that we started having discussions about last year was what other interests are there that students may have? And this is not just the conversation we're having here. In the last week and a half, I had more conversations with colleagues about the relevance that we have within public education. Are we meeting where our kids are and where they're going? Because we don't know what we're preparing them for. So now's the time to stop and say, ask them, what are your level of interest? And not just for courses at the high school, but also at the middle school. And the way that we offer, particularly when it comes to electives, because sometimes we're a little bit stuck with who can teach what based on certification and availability and trying to share staff from other buildings. So it is an opportunity for us to look at it holistically, and we sort of did this past year over at Goodwin. We've had conversations about it, was sort of blowing the schedule up and looking at it and saying, how do we meet the needs of where our kids are going to be when they leave Goodwin and go to middle school? For instance, Spanish at Goodwin is a class now. Traditionally, it was a 15-minute a day opportunity. So starting to have that mindset shift at the middle school and ultimately at the high school. So there are things we have to. So if you're in your team class, your homeroom class, you're going to get probably math and science from the same person. Then you're going to switch over to ELA and social studies with another person and share from that sort of team perspective. But what do we fill in the gaps with the elective offers that we have? So very music heavy, which I support. But within that structure of what we offer, can we get a bit more creative with the class offerings that we have, depending upon what it is that they. And that's kind of where the nexus of the survey idea and.
Do we know for any given student, and it probably varies at the different schools? For any given student, what's the number of electives that they would generally be able to participate in? And what's the total number of electives that we offer at each of the schools? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. Sometimes it's hard to quantify that because you may offer it, but you may not have enough kids to run it.
Take it, right?
So that would be an offering, but they didn't take it because we didn't have enough kids, and we would shift it over into something else.
Right.
A lot of that can also be hindered if you have a student who's very into music.
Right,
Their electives may all be taken up
Right,
because
band,
they're
chorus.
band, chorus, private,
Yeah.
individual lessons, things
Yeah.
along those.
But so for any given student, how many electives are we talking about for their educational experience?
In the middle school.
Right, well, at any of
At
the
any
schools.
level.
They are.
Again, that could be
Six of the elementary.
very.
So a
Yes,
student
yes.
would take 6 electives.
Well, it's the elementary school, there's 6 specials, so those are essentially the electives.
Right, but could I take all 6 of those?
At the elementary school, yes, you're scheduled by your homeroom. So
Okay.
you always go to art on a day, or, sorry.
So it's not really an elective, they're required to go to, they don't have an option to opt.
Right, but if we're
So
talking
elementary doesn't
like
apply.
sort of the specials and the interest area ones.
Because the special would be.
Special would be maybe something that they like,
Right.
right? Again, at the elementary level, at the middle school, there's 2 specials per day, and then students are electives per day, and they choose them. Or they're placed. It really depends on the team and the interest, but also what they're also, but if we look at the program of studies, that would list all the different electives. Would like count them.
They're also in the middle school, they're pretty, like, the main choice that they have is like, do you wanna participate in band or chorus?
Right.
You get to choose if you wanna do both or not, and if you don't, you basically get placed into the other, so.
The other moving
So,
pieces of this.
they have like computer assisted drawing, art skills, art, they have,
Unified.
they have a practical stitch, cooking, it's been teaching that one, so. I like all that.
I just wanna make a statement that it doesn't really sound very elective if they're placed in things, they don't have an option to opt out of it.
So this is one of the reasons why I was asking to understand what the process is, like, what is the student choice and the voice and what their choice and what it, how do we?
Yeah, it's 2 a day, 5 days a week, so they have 10 elective options.
Yeah.
Although, again, will state that I state the word elective is not the proper term.
The other piece, other kids who might be super interested in music, is if a student has some kind of IEP that requires a period of their day to be locked in, that also reduces the holes to stick the electives in
Yeah.
at the middle school and high school.
I just wanna make sure we're going around and following process so we can recognize our facilities patiently with their hand up for allowing us.
See,
Just like my personal opinion at the middle school, like you said, like it's kind, you kind of just like placed into them, and since I did band and chorus, that took up a lot of my time, and so. There was one elective called Practical Stitch, which is probably something that I should have taken because it teaches you like how to stitch. But I was placed in digital art for like 3 years, and so it's like, I don't know if there's a way that we could, give a survey to all the students, just so you have like that option to take things that you like and not like repeat, a class.
Jane first. And then Steve.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if we had a list for, like what grades can, because like, I don't know, when we talk about elementary, I don't, where does that start and end, and, where do fourth graders fall in, where do fifth graders fall in terms of electives, is it any different? Like, is everybody going in the same situation, or do fourth graders have more options? And then also, what changes by, I think your semesters is the only thing we're changing it by, right? You have to take something for at least one semester, there's nothing shorter than that, there's not.
It depends on the school.
Oh, so the trimesters, yeah, right, so it's trimesters.
So if you.
It depends on the school.
At
At the middle school, it's trimester, is that how they go?
Remember that, okay. All right, so, yeah, so I think that would be helpful for us as the board to have an outline of, how these courses work and how many, generally speaking, I understand every student's a little bit different, but generally speaking, how much time does each grade level have for electives? Given everything else they have to go, because I feel like that would help this conversation to have something that's a little more tangible. Because I'm not sure the breadth of electives.
And the purpose for electives, right? What's the goal of any given elective? Is it just exposure to something? Is it the ability to take cooking 1 and then cook 2 so that you can, develop your skill set? So that's kind of a something I'm interested in understanding.
Yeah, sorry, we're just jumping as well too. Steve was next.
So I just, interesting that this is coming up in these conversations. I'm a 7th grader. Never once have I been a part of any discussion about what elective, it doesn't sound like an elective. It sounds more like a special opportunity. He's in band, he likes that, he has elected to be in band. But there's no other class that we've had discussion about. As a parent, I have no idea what the options are for my son. I can't advocate for anything for him. In conversations with my son, what he's interested in, I could be like, hey, you know what? You're interested in this, you might be interested in these electives. And then maybe there's a ranking, list your top 5 things that you want to be a part of. It just sounds like a flawed system, and I don't mean to.
That's just a preference.
So like, okay.
We have the ability to talk about, yes, that maybe the current status right now. Is there a discussion or other things that we want to understand better as a board so that we can advocate for something maybe different? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing, and I agree with Steve, having a child go through the middle school, there was very little other than planning for it. There wasn't a person. So the middle school conversation, I think, is a bit different. I think we bring up a very good point, though, and I think it should be had. Wait, don't leave, I'm gonna ask you a question. No. So the high school, are you able, because the high school is a different conversation, the high school, are you able to fit in, Nico, so that the electives that you want, you really see this elective really cool to take it, are you able, with all the requirements and all the pressure about, you know, building that resume, are you able to fit in what you want?
Be honest.
You know, it's really challenging because in my personal experience, freshman year, I was like, you know, eighth grade was a little bit of a struggle. So I was like, hey, I'll have a study hall, I'll have art class for a whole year, I'll have band and chorus. That took up so much of my time. It was like worth 2 fine art credits. And so like I'm kind of actually struggling now to fit in all my requirements because I was like, I want to have a year where I can just, you know, relax and be comfortable with freshman year. So it's like now if I want to take, you know, an advanced art class, I can't really fit that in my schedule because I have to take like a computer science class and all that stuff. So it's a little challenging, but
I will say that I don't really enjoy taking electives like art, music, that's not really the type of student I am. But I will say the required electives, where there is one required art class, health, PE, there has been, you know, some issues fitting that all into the schedule.
Thank you both, I'm sorry to keep you.
No.
So my point, I do think maybe it's 2 different conversations, that it's great that you're having, because I think it would be nice to involve kids and parents in a more robust conversation at the middle school for electives. Because right now, yes, are they electives? Maybe on paper, but you're not elected to be in this, so I think that's a great conversation. The high school is part of the idea of some of these, especially the CTE courses, which, having gone through the course selection process, it's really hard. If you have this, like, oh, I'd love to try this, you just can't fit it in your schedule, which lends itself to after-school programming. Because sometimes when students engage in an experience, let's say they go into the shop or they do something, and it clicks, it hits, oh my God, this is what I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if they take an elective, it may spark an interest that otherwise they may have never known about. And that's what's great about a lot of these elective courses, especially when you talk about career, technical education stuff. So first, to my point with the high school, is there monies and times available for some of these to be moved maybe into after-school clubs, because kids just can't fit it in their everyday routine?
I don't know. If I'm being honest, is, you know, to have an after-school club, you have to have advisors, you know, when you do, as you see, we do have a lot of clubs and activities already, so for every one you're gonna add, you're gonna lose population in another one. I think, I can't speak for anyone else, my point in initiating this discussion, at least internally, was, there are pathway documents that are typical at the high school level, right? So if you're interested in going down this path, we can give you a piece of paper that says, you know, you would need to take this, and this, and you would have the skill set. A lot of that focus is now shifting toward the middle school so that we can better prepare, not necessarily a pathway, like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? But what are the things that you're interested in doing so that we're planning and programming at the high school and make it. There were, I can tell you, this predates me, there was an increased effort within the district to increase the amount of tech ed offerings that we have at middle school. We're in that process now, introducing things like robotics. It's gonna come second semester, I don't have semesters there, but whatever, it's coming. And seeing the interest level of kids to take those things, just like there are, if our student reps were here, I was waiting for the answer to say, yeah, there was courses I wish I took, but I didn't get in. Because it's only so many sections available. Well, we have that information, we need to know, because if there's 40 kids on a wait list, that's almost the size of a class, like an actual 5th grade class is 52 kids right now, so. We should offer that again, and what does that look like? So that's the conversation we're trying to see.
Yeah, so some of what, the students mentioned gets back to my, comment about the purpose for an elective. First of all, I think that there is an appetite for this, it sounds like there's an appetite for the board to probe a little more deeply into the process and the actual electives that are being offered, and I think the survey will provide a lot of good information. Um. And I'm a firm believer in student voice, but what we heard from Sylvie is, her student voice said, I'm taking a whole bunch of electives freshman year. And now she has set herself up for a very challenging end of high school career. So that gets back, so do students understand what the purpose for electives are? Or are they looking to them as a freebie, right? Like I'm gonna take cooking because all I have to do is make cookies and eat them all day long, right? So I think that we need to, we have a responsibility to the students to guide them. I'm disappointed that there wasn't a guidance counselor that worked with her to say, here's what you should consider as you structure your high school schedule. Because what we don't want you to do is put yourself in a position where you're having to take math, science, all your requirements. So I think that there's an important balance in ensuring that we're serving the students in the way they need to be served and understanding what is the goal of these electives. And, you know, I loved what Nico was saying, that like, hey, I'm not an electives guy, but he's a guy who's interested in furthering his education, and there are electives that can help him with that. And so I think there's some counseling, you know, coaching, counseling, education around electives for everybody, right? I don't think we need to expand our offerings, but people need to understand what's the role of electives in your educational curriculum.
For raising a point, I don't want to get the impression that we do that. Our counselors do meet with our kids there, we meet multiple times with our 8th grade kids going in. One of the things that brought to my attention last year was I wish I had an opportunity to have that conversation with those students. One of our student reps last year said, I had older siblings, so I knew what to do. Yes, I'm meeting with my counselor, I'm meeting with some of my teachers, but, so we're giving them that opportunity to do that. We're gonna bring other kids down, but I just wanna clarify, like, especially at the middle school. Technically, you're not required to teach world language at a middle school. So that's technically an elective right now, Spanish and or French, that's an elective. So it's not just cooking or tech ed, we're still talking about things that it may not be an elective when you get to high school graduation requirement, but it is here. We offer that. Do we want to expand on that? Do we want to, maybe it's not just expanding opportunities for things in the arts or expanding opportunities for things in technology, but it could be expanding on, you know, letting our kids have 2 languages when they're going to the middle school instead of tasting one, tasting another one, then deciding what path we want to go on. Can we build that into our data? That's the information that.
But one more question, I apologize. Are we gonna look at why one school has trimesters and the others don't? I mean, like, in the spirit of aligning their schools to support an educational experience for students?
Don't have all the history and rationale for that, so I don't want that, but we're looking at it. Now's a good opportunity, and again, it goes back to, well, we started with this. We have a chance to have a blank canvas. What do you want this place to look like for the next 5 years and beyond? And let's start having that conversation so we can plan.
Thanks. So to build on what Karina said, maybe add some information. My daughter had basically the exact same schedule as Sylvie freshman year. And she really didn't choose it. She did meet with guidance counselor. The guidance counselor kind of said, this is what I think you should take. I was not involved in the process, wife wasn't involved in the process. We didn't know, not having an older child, we didn't know what was available. We didn't know until she got into school in 9th grade that, oh my God, all these other things. And she is in a position now where she's stacking up things as a junior. Freshman year was kind of laid back. She took that art class, she had the study hall. So I think, Chris, you've already started the process last year with students, that transition. And how does that work? Course selection is part of that transition process, that 8th grade process. So there does need to be an improved process that engages not only the student in awareness of what the choices are, but also looking at that, you know, to go too crazy on, but that 4-year plan, so they kind of they look at everything through the 4 years. And the parents being involved too, because we were not involved in the process. She was basically said, this is what I think you should take. And that's what we went with. And it's worked out all right, but yes, it has put her in a position where now she can't take those other elective classes that she never even assisted because she. Freshman year kind of thing.
So I know that just for the purpose of the public meeting, there has been a survey that has gone out to parents of fourth graders up right through the middle school and high school to get input, and then students will also be able to take a survey appropriate to where they are talking about what their interests are for electives and getting some of their feedback, which then your response kind of that is at some point.
Just a quick question in regards to a statement you just made, Chris. There's 2 foreign languages that students can elect from. Can they elect not to take a foreign language?
Right now, they're required to take one, they can elect which one.
So that's the only thing that makes it elective.
Well,
is that they're-
I think in the big
They can
scheme of
choose
things,
which language.
I think they can take a second, I guess.
I think they call it the wheel at the high school also, or at the middle school, so it's like something that kids kind of get placed on. I'm not an expert on the middle school, but I feel like that's the terminology that's used in the middle schools, like on the wheel are all these different classes that can be taken, and it fits into the schedule based on who your teachers are, you know, like, again, I think it's a wheel of offerings, so I don't know if it's elective necessarily, but, and it rotates.
And it's based on what's available.
Yeah.
And I mentioned an elective world language, because sometimes we pigeonhole it, like electives mean, you know, cooking and band and music, but like, we're not required to teach foreign language. And so it's graduation requirements, so we have to teach it in high school, they're required to teach it. I don't know, for a district that what did happen, then we institute.
But as a student in a
As a
school,
student,
you are
That's part
required
of
to take.
our requirements that you will take you will have exposure to a foreign language while you are a student.
So who sets that requirement?
Technically, when it comes to that, you do.
You know, in a sense, that could help, right, the 6-year plan, in that depending on how well you do in that foreign language, that can bolster how many years you need to take it at the high school, right? So that.
So if you
Yeah.
take it, depending on how well you do, you
Right.
can fast track yourself through a higher level course when you get licensed.
Right.
So I just clarifying question. So would that have been set at the last time you guys did the strategic plan? Because at no point in the 4 years that I've been on the board has that been brought in front of the board.
Well, you would have approved the courses. So like, we can't just create a new course until we come to you, and we're gonna have that conversation last year.
I'm more questioning the requirement part.
Yeah, let me double, we haven't done it since I've been here, so
Right.
I
It's
don't,
been done a
I
while.
don't know when it's been done, but it's typically.
I think the only change we made was the alternating, you will get Spanish this, if you go to school this year, you get French if you go to school this year, I think that's.
I
how we
don't know the
had-
history of what's there, but I know it's all built on a direction.
Just something we've always done.
So that's the purpose of
Yeah.
the conversation is we have the ability within the purview of the board, whatever is within the purview of the board, to be clear. To understand and maybe take a relook at what our these are for whatever. Jane and then.
So I would say my feedback on, because the high school, there's more, it's more, I don't know what the word is, important to be able to get the things that you need. And it's just like this in college, kind of certain people get access to the classes first. It's the seniors that are trying to graduate, that if they need to take chemistry, they gotta take chemistry. And if a freshman wanted to take that chemistry class and it's full, the seniors are gonna get, better access. And I think that's what's been happening. And it happens at schools all around the country. It's not new to what, or unique to us. But I would like to know, and it's something that we can measure, is how many eighth graders set up, this is the classes that I would like to take as a freshman. And of those, how many actually get into those things and are have to make it, like, let's say they wanna take civics freshman year. They can't because we've got too many kids in the upper grades taking civics, so they can't take civics freshman year and they've gotta take something else like art or culinary or put in a study hall or something like that. I would like to see if there's a way that we can measure where those kids have to put off, and I think that is why some of the freshmen are finding that their schedules are light or heavier on electives is because they can't get into some of the other classes. Now, I don't know how much that's a problem or not, but I would like to know with real information, how many people are in those situations, and I think we should be asking eighth graders now what classes they wanna take as freshmen. I don't think that this should be a discussion or something that's in April or May. I think we are doing ourselves and them just a disservice if we're not starting early.
I think that's part of the purpose of the survey now with the students and the parents' feedback is to be able to understand. Cause it's not only, for me, it's not only about what we have currently, right? Like you have to have the requirements to graduate out of the high school. But you can have an arts requirement that could be filled a multitude of ways, right? You have a technology requirement could be filled a multitude of ways. Is it something that they're interested in, or are they just defaulting to whatever we have? And I don't think just because we're a small district, I know we have constraints, but I think that we have the ability to be more flexible and to understand what kids are really interested in, students are really interested in, and try to meet those needs. So it's about first understanding, because I don't think that we've asked this question in a while, so it's about asking the question at least to try to get a temperature on it.
So my thought is similar to what Karina just said about the guidance counselors. I'd like to hear how they schedule and what they do. I mean, we're sort of trying to encourage families, which makes sense. And if you're looking at a 4-year plan, we want to make sure that those courses are being carefully thought about and planned for.
I do wanna say though, I don't think that's our responsibility to kind of get in their shorts and.
Right.
Right, like our focus should be, just to kind of bring us back. The question is there an appetite for us to understand and help influence the electives that are being offered? And you're collecting information currently from parents. Next step is to collect information from the students themselves. And so what are the next steps for us? As a board, I mean, it sounds like there's interest in moving forward, and I think that's, we need to make sure that we're in scope for what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So what would the next steps be for us as a board?
The action that we've required from the board is, as we're gathering this information, if we have to propose any new opportunities, courses, programs, anything along those lines, that's where you go. I can't create a new class without your approval. So that's.
So you'll come back with the data, with the results.
I'll come back and show you, say, look, we surveyed everybody and there's a big appetite for. A computer design class that we currently don't have. We have budgetary component to it. I don't know if we have the equipment, the resources, the space. There's staffing components to that. That's what we figure out. Do we have people who have the certification to teach this? Because that's where the masses are. So you all have to say my message, you all have a role in this. Like there's certainly only so far we can go. And your role is, and there's other, if it's a new program or an opportunity, there may need to be a policy. Driven that, per Jack's point, there may be an after school component. Like, I just use robotics as an example. There's robotics that you can take during the day in class, but there's also First Robotics Club. There's an after school component to that. There's a cost to that. There are overnight trips to that. That's where your role comes into that. But at the moment, now is a good time to stop and take a temperature and where is that, what is the desire within the community, meaning kids and their families, as to what we currently have to offer, and I should just say courses and elective. What experience do they want? Because in this day and age, kids have more options today than they did when I was in school. I either went here, tech school, private school. There are more options now for kids. So how do we tailor our experience for our students to meet what they want? We have, people say that we're small. But we have things that other small communities throughout the state don't have. Use you an example. You got a giant body of water out here. We do more with that. Can't do as much as you're doing in your professional life, but are there things that we can do? So we don't know that yet. And we need to turn it around pretty quickly because I gotta bring you guys a budget pretty soon that might have an impact.
So we're trying to have a conversation
Yeah.
now, because that would be our role, is if curriculum stuff comes to us or if there's budget things for us to be able to understand the feedback from the students.
Just in the meantime,
Yeah.
what could I access to see what the electives are right now?
If you want, I will,
I'm just curious.
if you go on the Old Saybrook High School website, that's what I was looking for. We don't have, I can't find the middle school. There's a program studies on the high school website. You see on the bottom, on the right hand side, courses by department, every course is listed. You can see every course that we currently have. Doesn't mean we're right. But we're. And within the program of studies, you can see what their graduation requirements are. That's where your policy comes in. You said the grad requirement. We had to switch one last year, personal finance, where it fell, humanities, that stuff. But that's where all the information is then. Your grad requirements are right there. Course selection process, everything is listed on the website, but it's just a matter of. Are those offerings, are we meeting them where they are, or where they want to be?
So Kelly, does that information? Also provide information for the middle school offerings?
That doesn't on there, but I have that down so that we can follow up with that information out to the board as to the, I know we talked about a couple of them, but we got a list.
Close that one.
And we had that great presentation from the tech ed teacher, and I know he left. Did the program that he presented, does that still live on?
Yes.
Good.
It's just taking a little bit longer, the new teacher, it varies, but it's good. So like I said, robotics is gonna be introduced to the school this year. There was a great student entry in our tech ed courses.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at opportunities, kids look to go beyond here, a lot of that is technical area.
And it would be nice if, through that, in the middle school, there's a great opportunity to begin those learning paths. So that you're, like, that's why I refer to the 6-year-olds is starting in the middle school, how can we help frame opportunities for students so that they can, like, oh, I want to start with CAD and then I want to build here, go on to the architecture.
We had a presentation last year from our ED program.
Mhm.
And I've done that past. And the conversation is always centered around, you need to start having that conversation in 6th grade.
Yeah.
So that kids can start planning, if that's the area that they're, not necessarily just saying the EB program, but
But
following
that there's
that,
opportunities.
that pathway.
Yeah, because right now, all I know about is recess and the whittle. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Not messing with that.
Yeah, that's what the will.
Okay.
They're
Yes, thank you for hanging here with us. We're gonna move on to the next topic, which is student services.
very special.
At the end, at the end, any questions you have that you wanna make sure that I cover.
Motion to
A
adjourn?
little bit of a,
Not gonna get away with it that easy, sorry.
thank you for having me tonight. I am always willing to come and talk about special services. It's a pretty big department in the scape or the landscape of Old Saybrook Public Schools. I'm gonna click to the next slide. These are some of the things that student services cover. As we were having this conversation, part of my role as the director of student services is to run special education programs. That is the major part of the role. But also, related services, which is speech and language, OT, PT, BCBA, and I'll give you a glossary of all that stuff at some point in time. But also school counseling and school counselors fall under my purview as well. So the school counselors at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school, they participate in our department meetings and department conversations because they are mainly responsible for 504s, which I also participate in, not just me, but I help facilitate those meetings when necessary. I do participate in all of any 504 of an out of district or magnet school student I go to. I help with health plans, I'm the Title IX coordinator, we are heavily involved in nursing, I'm the one that hires nurses and nurse assistants and nurse subs. I'm the homeless liaison for the district and I put together extended school year. So, and I'm using a lot of I statements, like, yes, that's kind of my overall view, but I have a lot of really amazing people that make all of this happen as well. There's like, I do investigations for Title IX still. And the homeless piece is really something that I do specifically, but everything else is really a team of people that come together to make this stuff happen for kids. Next slide. I always start my presentations with a little bit about confidentiality because I am trying to give a broad overview of what we do in Old Saybrook to support students with identified needs, but I will not get into specifics about any student and any particular kid or a plan. I'm never interested in doing that, but I also want people to know that we're protected by laws, right? So FERPA and HIPAA and, you know, personally identifiable information. Again, if I'm talking about a program with very few students in it, I'm going to do that in broad strokes. I know you guys won't ever ask me for that, but again, there could be public watching. So love to put that out there. It's very important because we live in a very small town. You know, we have very few outplaced students. So I try not to even give you what grade they're at because again, I don't want to ever expose families to that kind of information, or I just don't want to expose kids, which I think we all agree is the right thing to do. Next slide, please. So in order to qualify for special education services, you have to have a disability in one of these identified categories. You know, I like to think of it as students have different abilities, right? We're all unique learners. We talk about students with neurodivergent brains and how we really are trying to be an inclusive environment and inclusive society. And yes, like these are the requirements and these are the, in the state of Connecticut, these are the only things that students can qualify for an IEP under. There's one statute change this year, developmental delay was only, we were only able to use that label for students from 3 to 5, and now they've extended that from 3 to 9 to give a kind of a broader and a longer diagnostic period for students who may fall or may exhibit some characteristics of the other disability categories, but gives students time to grow and mature so that we can really make an accurate diagnosis. So that was a huge thing that the state of Connecticut did this year, which is in alignment with all the other states and more in alignment with federal law. So those are the categories, and we have students that in our district that qualify for each and every one of them. Next slide, please. We in Old Saybrook are small, but I think very mighty when it comes to the range of programming that we can offer for our students. We have to offer things on a continuum of services, right? So from the least restrictive environment all the way to the most restrictive environment. We are very lucky that we are well staffed and well supported in each of the buildings. We have at least 4 special education teachers in each of the buildings, sometimes more. Goodwin has 6 preschool teachers, all of which are certified as special education teachers. That is their primary certification, and we have a collaborative preschool. So as you know, we service all 4-year-olds that apply and as many 3-year-olds as we can. Those classrooms are with peers and with special education students. So again, it's a really nice immersive environment to start our students with our most significant needs with their peers. And again, we don't have a classroom of preschool special education students. We have 1 or 2 special ed students in each classroom. So they're nice and spread out so they can learn from their peers, which is again, an amazing start. We have resource room teachers and reading specialists throughout Goodwin, but specialty programs are kind of what I listed here. And I tried to, you know, we always have a lot of seafaring terms here, but we have an intensive autism program in our elementaries or at Goodwin, and we're kind of calling it Starfish because they're kind of taking their first steps and starting, and we're making sure that those students' needs are met in as much of an inclusive environment as possible, right? So you will see students in with autism in regular education classrooms, trying, maybe with paras, maybe without paras, again, kind of trying to help them be as independent as possible wherever they are. We have Sail Junior at the middle school, which is really a life skills program that I was actually talking earlier. We just hired a new teacher this year and she is fabulous. All of our teachers are fabulous, but she has really hit the ground running. She's from Massachusetts. And she is just thinking about those students differently and really trying to enhance their experience in more of an inclusive environment. At the high school, we have Anchor, which is our therapeutic program. That really serves our it's staffed with a special education teacher and a school psychologist. And together, they're really working on those school avoidance students who really struggle with mental health issues, any kind of anxiety, depression, really working with them in a comfortable environment to get them back into their classes. And it's been very, very successful in the last 2 years. Well, since I've been here, I would say. It's been successful in the past too, but I've just got to witness it for this time. We have a Compass program, which is very unique in the Shoreline. It is a medically fragile program. So it's some students who have multiple disabilities with multiple needs. It's a very highly specialized staffed room. But not all high schools have that. So again, we're very, very lucky to have it. We're able to educate these, the students in our home school, and parents are super supportive of that as well. So that's great. SAIL is our high school life skills program. And then we have a collaborative transition program for students who are 18 to 21 or 18 to 22. They changed that law. And that's housed in Old Lyme. So it's with Old Lyme. There's 15 students in that program this year, which is pretty significant. Not all of them are ours, obviously. There's 2, and it's interesting. It's growing really quickly. We're adding 4 students next year, so I think I'll be having some conversations with you about how we might be moving that or shifting some of those resources back to this district. So that's kind of the broad specialized programs that we have. Like I said, we have grade level special education teachers. We have grade level para educators. There's a lot of resources, and I'm very, very, very grateful to each and every one of you for supporting that. I think we take a deep dive into some students, but we try to serve all students. And I really am appreciative that this board has been so supportive. Did want to drop these numbers on you. Just trends, right? So in the last 3 to 4 years, our special education numbers dropped and then they've gone right back up. Unfortunately, like our total enrollment has dropped. So it's a weird dip and then it re-increase. What I did want to draw attention to is 504 plans, because school counselors are responsible for 504 plans. And going from 56 to 90 is a huge amount of time that school counselors are working and being in 504 meetings to make sure that those accommodation plans are appropriate and in place for students. So it's kind of an outlier. And again, if you add those 2 numbers together, many of our students are on some sort of specialized plan to help them access their education.
Sarah, 504, can you define that for us?
Sure. So IEP is an individualized education plan, and that's like a stack of papers with a lot of goals and objectives, and it's very targeted. A 504 plan is a general education initiative. So it's under the American with Disabilities Act, and that is an accommodation plan. So things like extra time for tests, or if you need preferential seating, or sometimes if students are working through some emotional time, that we might add counseling onto a 504 plan. So it's that range of services.
For that increase from 56 to 90, is it that a whole bunch of new students came into the district?
I will say a good one, yes, a lot of new, no, sorry, that's not 504 plans. The 176 this year, we had a lot of students move into Goodwin that are special education students.
And so the likelihood of those students needing a 504 is high, or what do you,
No,
what do you attribute that increase when there's a reduction in enrollment? Is that like?
so the 504s, it's at the high school and it's a lot of students that are expressing anxiety and depression. Those are the primary diagnoses that are coming in, and we take, when we receive information from doctors, when we receive information, there's some health plans in there too. So students with diabetes might have a 504 plan that's attached to a health plan so that we're covering all bases, like they can have extra breaks as needed. Or students that 504s don't really cover, injuries, but I like to make sure that students have a 504 plan along with a health plan so that they, you know, if they're having, they broke their leg in football, right? So that they can, yeah, they can leave class early and go, and all of that is documented. I try to make sure people have a 504 and a health plan. But again, it is primarily the high school and it is a lot of anxiety, depression.
So how many students this year need an IEP? Is that?
176.
That have IEPs?
Correct.
So specifically at the high school, school counselors. And if that's assuming that a percentage of that 90, for 504s,
All right.
goes to the high school.
Yeah.
What other responsibilities do school counselors have at the high school though?
At the high school. I don't have their job descriptions memorized, but you know, they meet with students regularly. They, again, over the summer, they do all of the scheduling. They run the Power School uploads, I think is what it's called. They make sure all of this stuff, you know, all of the courses are in the right places for students. They do meet with students about their course schedules. You know, when students have IEPs or 504s, the school counselors are in those meetings. They're required to come to every single PPT meeting. So they're in those meetings when they're developing the kind of the schedule. I often say schedules are not part of the IEP or the PPT, but inevitably people want to know and people want to talk about what the schedule could look like. So they do a lot in those meetings. Yes, they meet with students, they collaborate, they work with Dave and about high school, Dave and Joe specifically about tiered interventions for students. So who's struggling in their regular education classroom, what supports can we put into them to help move them forward, and do we need to make a referral to 504 special ed? So they're doing a lot of that throughout
Post-secondary.
school day.
Post-secondary.
Oh, post-secondary.
Right, that's
I forgot about college.
That's
Sorry.
kind of where I'm getting is like
Think about that.
the school counselors I'm noticing at the high
Yeah.
school have, especially with that increase in number. I mean, you think about post-secondary planning, course scheduling, we were just talking about course scheduling, you think about following up on 504s. That's a
And they
tremendous.
liaise with every single teacher, so they have to talk to every teacher. Yeah.
Correct. So is that something the district is?
I believe that there might be a conversation about that.
Oh.
Yeah, and all the post-secondary planning, right? So all the college visits, all the, you know, getting students connected to career pathways, they do all of that. I just always tend to go to special education. Sorry about that. That's a huge piece of their day-to-day job.
Yeah, because like you said, they have to be.
They have to be at all the 504
And give a percentage of them.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, there are 5 people that are required to be at PPT meetings: a school counselor or related service person, regular education teacher, special education teacher, parent, administrator. So that's a heavy lift for every PPT.
So I know,
Sorry.
no, that's okay, no, we all know that the anxiety has been, has been a huge issue for all the schools, especially post-COVID. What does our data tell us about the numbers of these specific disabilities? Is there one, are there several categories that you're finding are just shooting up? Because my question is really, you know, I know my kids have multiple disabilities, some are very complex. Are we staffed appropriately? Do you think you would be looking for additional, with budget planning coming, additional staffing.
Well, I'll always ask for everything, yes, I want,
But what do we really need? Are we really addressing the needs of these kids?
I think an honest conversation, I've already started to have the conversation, I think we are well staffed.
Okay.
I think we can use our resources differently, and I think this kind of lends to the conversation about electives, right? Like, I think that there are a lot of opportunities that we could help our students in special education succeed with some different elective opportunities, right? Like, I think that both conversations fold into each other. My biggest concern is the lack of the para pool. And I'm not a huge fan of like, everybody gets a para, however, I am concerned that we don't have enough paras, we don't have paras that are applying, we don't attract them, and that concerns me in the long run. Teaching staff, I think we're very well staffed. Counseling staff, I think we're well staffed. The 504 situation, I think we could use a little bit of a 504 coordinator, right? But that could be a stipend because that's a lot. I do get concerned about making sure that we're fully staffed in the paraeducator world. And that is challenging. It's not unique to Old Saybrook. It is everywhere. Yeah, I don't even want to tell you how many times.
Yeah, first, okay, good. Different path here, so, we know we've done the new reading program, and we have thankfully addressed the dyslexic disability over the last 10 years or so here.
Yep.
How does that transition to the middle school students and the high school students who are dyslexic and need very specialized?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, grade level teachers who are all trained in different multisensory structured literacy so that we can provide that level of intervention to students who are identified. And we have that at every grade level and every level. We are lucky at the middle school to have somebody who's focused strictly on structured literacy. So there is one teacher who's a reading teacher who is helping with, or just doing that. And we are training one new person at the high school to do structured literacy. I moved someone from the elementary school.
I don't know. Could you define structured
So
literacy?
structured literacy is like a multisensory approach. It's specific to how we work with students with dyslexia, right? We teach encoding, decoding, specific comprehension strategies. There's a lot of things that go into it, and there's programs, right? So you might have heard of Orton Gillingham or Wilson or Sunday. There's 1,000 programs out there, but those are the kind of the top 3 that are around here. All of our teachers are trained in, if not one, kind of a few of them, so that they can pull from all of those strategies to implement with our students. Depending, some kids really like Wilson.
Yeah.
It makes them fall asleep, like it's so redundant and kind of structured, but again, for some students, that really works.
Yeah.
Other students need that, where in Gillingham's a little bit more multisensory, tactile, you're tracing letters, you're, becoming a letter, like, depending on what, age level you're at, they need that kind of exposure. So we do that. I didn't highlight it because I actually did in my last slide.
Yeah.
Get to that last
Just
slide.
I'm going to address, and just one more quick question. Let's say a parent has a concern, they've identified something, they've observed something with their student that is off. And they come to the school and honestly, they were not identified by the school. What's the process for that parent who has legitimate concern?
Sure. So I would hope, and I again, my expectation for my staff is if a parent comes with a concern, we address that concern. We hear them out and we would go to a referral PPT, right? That's the first step in any process. We gather information, we pull together a team, we look at it, outside information, any data that we might have. And we would hold that referral PPT. At that referral PPT, if there's enough data and enough information to move to the next step, which would be to design a comprehensive evaluation for a student, then we would go in that direction. Sometimes there isn't enough information to move to that next step. So again, that's really, I would hope on the team to follow up and make sure that even though we might not be moving to a testing situation or an evaluation, a comprehensive evaluation, that there's still
their concern is being addressed by either the classroom teacher or the interventionist who is involved, or I mean, that's kind of as far as you go. If they're in it, I mean, again, we don't get to special education right off the bat oftentimes. Oftentimes, we do kind of not send people back, but send people in a different direction to capture more data, right? Like, I'm trying to think of an example would be if a student didn't have any intervention at all, and we wouldn't jump immediately to an identification because we want to make sure that we're giving them something in measured steps and collecting data on 6-week cycles in SRBI to then say they're not making progress, because students who are not making progress, we probably have a disability there, right? And we want to examine it then. But if we haven't afforded students an opportunity to make progress with some targeted intervention, it's hard to skip to that next step. There's actually a box on this Connecticut form that says you have to make sure that students have participated in an intervention, which is very difficult sometimes to understand.
Yeah, are you finding? The number of parents utilizing outside advocates increasing, or is that not as?
I mean, I came from Essex, I mean, so every family had an advocate, so I don't think it's any. I think it's a trend, I think it happens, I think that there are people out there that are preying on fears, I think, and I think that that sometimes can be unfortunate. I hope that people work in collaboration with the school. I think I've had a pretty decent track run with advocates. I also know that advocates don't always know like the systems, or if they do, they don't provide all of the information.
It's usually as a result of a highly frustrated parent.
Sure, and I've been trying, I meet with highly frustrated parents all the time, like, right, that's my job. So I've been trying to let parents know, I would prefer if you come to me, right, and tell me, because I am pretty much a people person, right? I'll work with anybody and I'll try to come up with a solution. And I've had a lot of parents come to me, but I'm fairly new here. I'm 2 years in, like, I'm trying to get that information out, that I am willing to meet with any parent and come up with a solution, because I do think that the more time we spend working for the student and on the student and what the student needs, and not fighting about differences of opinions, that's where our time should be spent. And I hope people know that about me now, or they're getting to know that about me. But I have had several conversations with families who are kind of like, what is wrong? Like, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but we can try like X, Y, and Z, and maybe let's try this avenue, and maybe we could try this instead. Might not be special education, right? I might try to give them some other ideas. Maybe it's an attention thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do, and I'll have parents in all the time to talk. I'd rather have the conversation than not.
Appreciate that open door.
Yeah.
What else do you have? Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I think I have one more slide. I wanted to end it with kids. So we have a very vibrant ESY program. Our high school students were out in the community every single day of the program. We do have individual reading programs over the summer, so students kind of come in and get their reading instruction. We have small group instruction. A lot of students are at job sites. We have that intensive elementary program and also a preschool program. But again, some of our smiling faces that got out and about, those are our kiddos. So a couple of preschool students up there, kindergarten now, middle school, and high. So it was a really fun summer. Oh, now on to questions.
So June 1st.
What's the intensive elementary?
That's for students who have autism and significant behavioral needs.
And
Again,
what-
it's
when
not a
it says
self-contained-
Elementary, what is the word elementary?
Kindergarten through 4th grade. So it's not self-contained. It's a program that students really do go to when they need a safe space, or if they're getting their like specific discrete trial instruction or some really targeted small group instruction. But again, most of the students, we try to push them out and make sure that they're included as much as possible with their regular education peers.
So not a question, just a compliment. I'm continually amazed by your level of expertise and intelligence and the passion that you bring to the job, and I feel that we're very fortunate to have you in our district, so. Thank
I
you
have
very much.
to-
What?
I have to deal with.
Yeah, you do. You do.
What do you think?
Time, there's so probably tomorrow. I love my job, so thank you guys for employing me. I really, really appreciate it.
Sarah, actually, I'm embarrassed. Part of this earlier conversation about getting a bit more out of the box, and she scared me with her focus slide, so I won't get too specific, but Sarah approached me last year and said, I have an idea to take some of our students into a some different programming that's maybe not necessarily here. Can I do it? And I answered, yeah, of course, which is good, because I already did. But, and the feedback that I've gotten on that is good, because Sarah is very, very good at what she does, but also at the end of the day, Sarah ended it the way that we hope everybody would end it with. It's like it all comes back to what's best for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, very amazing. And the staff, yes, there are things to work on, yes, there are things to tweak, but everybody's heart is in the right place every day. And I am in every school, every day, every classroom, once a week. I love it though, like that's where I get my energy, so, yeah. We've got a great, great group of humans.
Right, thank you.
So, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Sorry.
It took more than my 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for bearing with us through the rest of the meeting.
Six 30.
Have a nice, Sarah.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so we'll move into our reports by our board committees and liaisons, so we'll start with budget.
So we don't have anything to report. We are getting close to where we start our planning season, and so we'll be working with Chris. To figure out a meeting schedule and how that's gonna go.
Facilities,
You don't have a
we
chair.
don't have it here now, yeah,
This was a reminder to just,
Yeah.
yep,
we could skip personnel, we did it this summer. Oh, this year.
No, we can't.
We go back to seven.
yeah,
I have something I'd like to bring up on our facilities.
yeah.
We spent a lot of money working on resurfacing the track. And in August, I observed a pickup truck and trailer that had driven across the track and was parked on the field. I reached out to Trent at the time, because I didn't know how to get a hold of Mr. Sodi, and had him share the information. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a contractor here in town who was showing me a job that he just bid on, which is the sign. And I was like, oh, how are you gonna get out there? I said, oh, I'm gonna drive right out there. I said, no, you're not. You're not driving across that track. He was like, why? I did it yesterday, I did it the other day when I went to look at it. And I have some real concerns with that, you know, we heard about how bad it is for vehicles to be driving on the track before we went through the resurfacing. Now we spent a ton of money on the resurfacing, and vehicles are getting onto the track. I would like to express my real frustration on that and hope that it can get rectified. If vehicles need to get out across, then we need to put down plywood or some kind of protection on the track. I, as a taxpayer in the town, don't wanna see it.
It's responsible, yeah.
Get permission. You know, get permission from somebody.
No permission at anyone.
I don't, let me look into that, I don't.
Eric will take it, I wanna make sure we're not going too far.
No, that's the only thing
That's fair.
figured facilities was the best place to say or that.
Yep, that's fine, we'll also need to evaluate if somebody wants to end up chairing facilities committee, it is a very important role within our board of education.
Who's on
I
it?
need to make a plug right now.
I'm on it, Alan was on it,
I think I am.
And.
You're up. Karen.
Steve, weren't you on it? Were you on it?
I believe so.
Yeah, Steve's on it.
I only have 2 no games.
Still fitted meeting to chair.
We can wait until post-election if we want to, but
I'll share it for the next 2 meetings if you want.
Sure.
When do they meet?
Well, depending on what Steve would call as chair.
I mean, Pam is usually the one who calls them when
It would either be like at 6 o'clock before a board meeting, or the alternative has been Thursdays.
most likely 6 o'clock before we.
Yeah, I would be 100%, yeah, that's kind of up my alley.
Okay, great. So Joe looking to add in to replace Alan and Steve to chair for 2 weeks at least. Okay, I guess my request here is as we are going into budget season within the facilities committee to be looking at what we need to incorporate into the budget to come, like, that committee has to be active coming into the budget. We have older buildings, we have other stuff that's going on, just like what are we doing?
I'll figure it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think we should start with a tour.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. We talked about that.
I mean, it might be beneficial for the
Oh,
board.
then we can post it that their quorum may be there,
Yeah.
and we'll inform everyone.
Yeah.
So maybe best to do it on off. Board meeting night, but
Yeah.
just, I'll reach out to you then.
Yeah.
We'll get some time.
You know.
And just to comment, if there is damage on a track, because this individual drove over, I would propose that it not come out of our budget, but perhaps the contractor be assessed a fine.
I am unaware of any damage, if there's damage out, Pam will.
I mean, you can't even walk on it in the wrong.
We did purchase something to put over it, to get over, so I'm.
So
not
maybe
sure.
it was used.
I think maybe that was it, something that you could put something down the track that they would drive over, I don't, I will find.
Appreciate it.
Jim,
Yeah, with respect to facilities, I noticed that a week ago, a message was put out that we're dedicating the turf field to Mr. Bourne. Is that a truism?
Yes, I think the student reps stole my thunder on that one, it's on their.
And what does dedication mean? Is it the Mr. Bourne turf field or
There's a
something?
sign thing put up, yeah.
And facilities had no input on that?
There is currently no board policy when it comes to naming things. Okay, putting a sign on the facility.
So who made the command decision to do that?
I was approached actually last year about it from some parents and from students. I initially said no, because I came from an environment where there was a board policy to do that. Upon researching that, there is no board policy, so ultimately the authorization would have to come to me. And then unfortunately, I did not, and I will take the hit for getting this information out to you in a timely manner. There was a plan to do this in a different way, but unfortunately, Mr. Morgan passed. So the information that went out, was trying to coordinate a time where he would have been able to attend it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But ultimately, it's my decision, but I had to say yes, or no, you can have some.
Okay, I mean, you'll find a bigger fan of Mr. Bourne than me. I was just surprised when somebody said, oh, they're dedicating the field after Mr. Bourne, which is a great idea, but I didn't know about anything beforehand. Well,
Do we want to consider a policy because?
I think that is something that we are probably need to bring into policy committee about whether that's something that we want to do, because there are other requests that come from time to time and just some level of consistency and guidance as to what qualifies as something that should be changed.
I think we need some guardrails there, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure if it was a booster, I don't know, but that could have been, that's another, group that may have been involved, that this was the booster, that was part of the boosters.
I believe it, my understanding, it had been discussed for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, it was approached to me, and like I said, originally I said no, because I thought that there would have been some sort of policy or guideline, where I discovered that there wasn't, ultimately it came up to me, and I said, I agree.
He's a photographer.
Or
Wow.
somebody else, here.
But I'm not.
Okay. Policy, anything else?
But I've been asked.
Oh, sorry, I thought there's.
No, Chris wanted to skip personnel, and I said, absolutely not.
Personnel here, sorry.
Because we had a very active summer.
Okay.
It was a record-breaking season for hiring administrators, but very successful. So just want to bring your attention to, again, fall board self-evaluation meeting is on October 28th. That same routine, we'll have dinner, an early dinner. And Ann will facilitate as always, so I'm asking you now to provide any topics for discussion that you would like to have on the agenda, email, text me, whatever. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, non-policy.
The policy, I've been asking Chris about having policy meetings, waiting for him to get back to me.
We just got the updates from Shipman and state, the legislative things that need to be done, so we'll get that off folks.
Thank you to the chairs of the committees for those updates. We have your reminders here, and then last but not least is just a motion for
So moved.
by Steve,
Second.
second by Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
This is what I was thinking of.
It's a plaque, well,
I know.
yeah,